cater for big occasions like weddings and other events?
We are live on YouTube in 10 seconds.
Okay. Good evening. Good
Oh,
evening.
yeah.
Welcome.
1 second. Just the YouTube. Sorry. Apologies.
Let me finish my coffee.
I'll give you a thumbs up.
And any other is that this is labeled
The advert is on.
100% organic.
Thank you.
Yes, they cater for all events, weddings, christenings, birthdays, you name it, they cater for it. The other good thing is they personalize the bottle. So you can get a picture of the bride and groom.
Wow.
Or you can even get the birthday girl or birthday boy.
Ooh.
And don't make me get started about the health benefits of this ginger drink. It contains many active ingredients that can help fight lots of infections. Oh, it's also good for, you know what it is, which is why I always drink a few before I come and visit your sister.
What did you just say?
Bleejay, are we live now?
Okay. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good
And
evening,
welcome
guys.
to Diaspora Voices, people, family. Welcome, welcome. You're definitely locked on to DJ Little, and this is Tuesday, the 12th of October, and you know, it still feels like springtime in UK and especially in London. For those of us who are living in London, it still feels like springtime. And funnily enough, the irony of this all is what you call it. October is much more favorable than August. August was awful. If anybody could recall, August was not so friendly at all for those of in London especially. But September was decent. October, so far so good. We're on 12 days into October, and it still feels like springtime. Just the other day on Sunday, I was out there with my younger brother. We were running the half marathon, Royal Parks half marathon, and it didn't feel that cold. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I had my PB as well. I was waiting for you, Zainab. You didn't even check on my status, but we'll talk about that later. Not for now.
Apologies.
Okay, don't worry about that. And I ran my guts out, and not even a well done to you. And I was hoping one person I was waiting for to cheer me was you, but never mind.
Next time.
Anyway, people, we are running the Black History Month series. As I said to you, welcome to Diaspora Voices. And you're hearing the voice of the Moses for Salon ENT. And my name is DJ Little, aka Money. Because if you're not paying, I'm not playing. That's how it goes. You know what I mean? Each and every day. No. So anyway, today is not about me. Like I said, I'm just here to produce the show. And we've got a wonderful person who's been supporting me all throughout the years, and grew up in London together, and she's always supported my passion. And I've finally managed for her to put a voice into advices, because if you got something and then you want somebody to do it, you best be the person to deliver it. As the saying goes, a man's best servant is himself or herself. So, and because I don't trust anybody to deliver and host all these amazing ideas, I've managed to get her to do the job. And whilst I'm going to slowly take my time to find a replacement for her but she's happy to step in and deliver. So we are running the Black History Month series, and people, last week we had the wonderful Joyce Cornell. Don't forget, the competition is still open, where one of your child will benefit from a mentoring, so you don't want to miss out. I will rerun the questions later. Maybe our host Zainab will run the questions later. So the opportunities is still there, and I don't want you guys to miss it. But equally today, we're moving forward, and we've got another fine young gentleman where, you know what I mean, if I was that way inclined, I would have grabbed him myself. But anyway, I have to protect the industry. But I won't be introducing him because I will stutter and I don't want to do any stuttering. So instead, I'm going to go to our host of the show tonight, who's going to be hosting the show, and is none other person but the wonderful Miss Zainab Zorokong. Put your hands together and let's say good evening and welcome to
Also known as
Zai, and we are here to you and we're supporting you. So thank you for the program. So before I even hand over the reins to you, I just want to ask you, how has your week been from last week, so to speak? How's your week been from last week, Z?
From last week today. Good evening and welcome, Diaspora Voices. Welcome, Diaspora audience. Thank you for joining us once more for this lovely conversations with. So since the last week, I've been really busy, you know. I've been organizing Black History Month at work. I have been helping you to produce your shows. I've been disturbing you a lot. That's been keeping me utterly busy because I've been hitting you up on WhatsApp, hitting you up via email, calling your phone, getting you on Zoom. And I really enjoyed nagging you throughout the whole process. So my week has been cool. I've also hung out with Bleejay on Sunday, and we got to have a lovely meal, and we'll get to that in a second as we go into the show, because he's going to tell us about his reflections of being a tourist in London. Actually, he's on a working holiday. I shouldn't even call him a tourist. That's the wrong terminology there, but we're going to get to that in a second. So I had a lovely, wonderful evening in his presence. But other than that, it's been a great week, and I can't wait to get started in this conversation.
Okay, so that sounds very interesting. It looks like you've had a full-on week, but I just want to also just catch up with you just quickly. After the show last week, the program last week, and if my memory serves me right, that's your very first time on media actually hosting a program. What's the reaction like from your mom, your daughter, your family, your friends who see you on social media say, look, Z, we were never expecting you to be on the camera. What's been the reaction? Be honest now.
They've all told me, don't give up your day job. Focus on that.
I don't believe you. I don't believe. I want them to come on. I want them to come on camera to say that.
And I'm with them 100%. There's a focus on that, because that's where you get your pension from. That's where you're getting your benefits from, and I'm with them 100%. But I'm happy to do this as a side thing, though. I'm happy to do this as a side thing for you.
Oh, thank you very much. And so obviously, tonight's program, you're excited about it, and
I'm super excited.
And really, what are you hoping to get from our guest before you even bring him in? This is a conversation between you and I. What are you hoping to get out of him tonight?
Okay, so I think I'm super excited. So Bleejay is going to be talking to us about investing in Africa. And I don't think there's any better place in the world right now for us to think about investing than in Africa. He's an expert, he's passionate, he's lively, he's young, and he's going to talk to us about what we can do across several different generations in terms of getting started in investing in Africa. So what I want the audience to draw out of him tonight is just those little nuggets of wisdom about the sectors to get started in, about how to collaborate and work together and start investing in. His journey and his experience is very specific and it's very unique, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how he got into it. So hopefully that should be an eye-opener for some people, and that should help tell you and inform your decision making. So Bleejay is full of wisdom. If I tell you his age, you will not believe it, because he's got wisdom beyond his years. And I just want the audience to be able to glean on that.
Brilliant. Okay. So Z, over to you and our wonderful guests. I'll let you get on with the show. The lines will be open to the viewers out there. I'm just going to say to you, at the end of tonight's program, the lines will be open. You can call, and then there will be Q&As. And you can ask either Z some question, or you can ask based on what information has been shared this evening. You can also ask questions to our guest, or you want to ask a studio question, you can do that as well. You can interact with us on Facebook, on YouTube, and feel free, if you're going to call the studio, please only use WhatsApp calling. And that's how we'll be able to get you live on air. WhatsApp calling, please. Thank you. Z, over to you. Good luck with the program.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And good evening once more, Diaspora Radio. It's great to be with you again on this Tuesday night. And it's great to have a wonderful guest who's a great friend, a brother, Mr. Bleejay Innis, coming to talk to us about investing in Africa and more specifically investing in the construction sector. I'm not going to introduce him. I'm going to let him speak for himself. So over to you, Bleejay, just to tell us a little bit about who you are and just let us know something fun and friendly about you.
Thank you so much, Z. Thank you, Das.
First of all, wait, look at him, audience. Isn't he handsome? Just wonderful. Great personality, full of jokes, full of wisdom. But back to you, Bleejay.
You're too kind. We're never going to get through this show if you keep spewing these compliments. But thank you, Z. Thank you, Diaspora Voices, DJ Little. It is a pleasure to be on this show. I'm still working on my British accent, so
good day, Mike.
Hello. Z taught me that one, but again, my name is Bleejay Innis. I am originally from Liberia, not from Sierra Leone, but I did live in Sierra Leone for a short while when I left during the Civil War in Liberia when I was about 6 years old. So if there's any other country I consider my second African home, it is Sierra Leone. But I was born in Liberia. I left, as I said, when I was about 7 years old during the civil crisis in Liberia. And for the most part, grew up in the United States. I went to the University of Massachusetts for my collegiate years, where I studied international business there. And then I went on to get my master's degree from Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., wow, where I got my master's degree in international real estate development. Wow. So just have a tremendous passion for the continent, for the development of our people, for pouring knowledge into our people, for receiving knowledge from our people, and just all about seeing how we can elevate ourselves to be impactful and influential, not just on the continent, but wherever in the world we find ourselves.
That's amazing. Georgetown brains. Wow. That's very, very wonderful, DJ. So tell us just a little bit about your course in international real estate. I'm really interested to know, how did that go? What were your main challenges? What did you learn about that? And how did that help you sort of get into what you're doing now?
Well, I'll be lying to you if I said I always knew what I wanted to do, or if what I'm doing now is what I dreamed of doing. I think, like a lot of young people out there, there's a lot of pressure on you to try to figure out what you want to do. I remember when I was in school at a young age, our teachers in America will always ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was always that one student in class. I was always changing my answer every time I would say I truly never really knew what I wanted to be. I just knew I wanted to be successful. I wanted to have an impact on the world in some way. So for all the young people out there, I want to say that it's okay if you're in a position, or even older people, if you're in a position and you're in college and you don't know what it is that you want to do and want to be, it's okay to be in that position. But for me, I was passionate about Africa. I was passionate about my country, about Liberia. And, I was blessed with an opportunity to leave during the Civil War. So for me, I felt like I owed it to give myself back to my country, my continent in some way. And, when I got into real estate, that was a path. I got into the real estate world from a career standpoint. That was a path that I stumbled across in the industry. And I wanted to learn more about that industry. And I decided this would be a good opportunity to combine my passion and my love for Africa, for my country, Liberia, and for the continent with my experience and my skill sets as far as what I was already doing. So that was kind of how the two came together. That's how I ended up finding myself doing construction and being in the property space back on the continent. That passion drove me to find what I experienced that, what I was good at, and, was able to combine my experience with my passion to do something that I'm excited to be doing.
Amazing. So when passion and purpose align, great things happen.
Absolutely.
Wise words there, Bleejay, because you know what? I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So I'm gonna take loads of wisdom away from what you said. DJ Little, that recording has to come to me first, because I'm gonna take BJ's advice and try to work out my direction in life going forward. Thank you so much for that, Bleejay. So just tell me a little bit, because this is your first time in London, isn't it?
It is.
Time.
Surprisingly, it's my first time in London, and I've had a tremendous experience. Love it in London so far. I'm glad I wasn't here when the weather was terrible, as DJ Little was talking. So, either it's me, I brought the sunshine with me, and I brought the good weather with me. So, there it is.
I think it's likely to be you. It's likely to be you.
Did something for London this year, but it's been an amazing experience. I arrived on Friday for a conference representing my company. My company is called Buchanan Development Corporation. We are a construction, engineering, and logistics firm based out of Monrovia, and attended this conference as a representative of Buchanan Development, and also representing my country, Liberia. So came here for this international conference, which is focused on investing in Africa. Loads of investors and loads of companies from the continent who are here trying to make deals happen, build relationships and make deals happen. And I believe that representation matters. And I believe in being in the right place at the right time. And when that happens, good things happen eventually. So I saw this conference, heard about it in London, and I reached out to the organizers about attending, initially, and the organizers said, well, we've never had anyone from Liberia to present or speak about what's happening in Liberia. Would you like to be a speaker? So that was a blessing there. They asked me to be a speaker, and, my company said, hey, this would be a great opportunity, and supported in getting me out here. And, here I am. I have a couple people in my social media network who live in London. So when they saw I was coming out here, a good buddy of mine from Liberia reached out to me first. So the day I arrived and dropped my suitcase, he took me probably to too many places to count. Went to Buckingham Palace to see the Queen, and went to see a lot of the other tourist sites. And then from there, obviously, Z jumped into the picture and was a tremendous host for me. Well, took me to some great eats, took me to some other places to see her. So it's been a great experience in London so far. I look forward to being here a lot more, and just emerging myself in the community, in both the business community and the African community as well, because wherever Africans are, so it's a passion of mine to be able to see how we can all benefit each other and to be able to elevate our people.
That's amazing, BJ. And I think, we did have some wonderful eats on Sunday, and I'm glad you've enjoyed your visit. Now, one question before we move on, though. Did Lizzie let you into Buckingham Palace? Because I told her that she had to give you a full tour of the building. I'm her boss, you see. I'm talking about Queen Liz. I'm her boss, you see. So.
I called her when I called her on her phone. She did not answer. So she replied to me to ask her for forgiveness.
Next visit.
We'll
get you in. So tell us about the Investing in Africa Summit, the reason that you were here. Tell us all about it, because when I heard about the Investing in Africa, I must admit, I didn't really know much about it. I knew very little detail. I know it was an annual sort of global investment summit. It has all these sort of high-powered people, from ministers to investors to banks to just ordinary people like myself who want to learn a little bit more about investing in Africa and where to get started. So tell us how did it start? What's the genesis of it, and what did you get out of it, attending as a speaker and as a participant over these last few days?
Well, it was truly a great event. This is an event apparently that this was my first time attending, as I said, but this is an event that I heard that is hosted annually. But because of COVID, they did not have an event last year. So the last event they had was in 2019. But this was an amazing community and network of European and African and American investors and people who are passionate about doing business on the continent, people who are on the continent who are looking to connect with the global market, to promote their countries and promote opportunities in their countries and promote their businesses. So, I remember a mentor of mine told me once, in business, you either have the money or you either have the network. So if you don't have the money, you have to make sure that you invest in the network. So this was an amazing opportunity to be able to build your network and to meet the right people. So for me, it was just tremendous to find people in so many different industries, in so many different spaces, that I could build with, that I could collaborate with, that I could, even if the industries don't directly impact me, that I could say, hey, I have a friend or I know someone who's in this industry that you could benefit from, because that's where value is added. So for me, I got a lot of it out of it for my own personal business, but I also got a lot out of this event for people who I know who are doing businesses on the continent, that directly align with the value and the vision of some of the investors, the other people that were here. So I'm excited about bringing those people together. I consider myself a connector. That's something that is a passion of mine. I love connecting people. I love seeing other people successful. I love seeing other people do what they aspire to do. And I believe that's something that's very important for our community. As Africans in general, we don't do a very good job of connecting and collaborating with one another. And you see other communities that do that are successful because they know how to collaborate with. And that's a key factor that I think a lot of us need to. If we're going to develop our countries, if we're going to develop the continent as a whole, we have to know how to. We have to know how to share resources, how to share connections and networks with each other that will open up doors so that we can be proud of one another. Because if Z is successful and she's doing something great, I'm happy to call her a friend. If DJ Little is doing something that's successful, I'm happy to say that he's in my network and to see him succeed. So, it's being in events like this, it helps you shape your mindset of how to truly be successful, how to do business, and how to connect with the right people, because those are truly the tools that you need to get to where you want to be.
Wow, that's amazing. Bleejay, I just want to pick on something you just said there. So I'm going to come back to the thing about relationships, sharing resources, actually, because developing Africa, and what we're going to be talking about later in terms of construction, is going to be all about that. So collaboration, sharing resources, and just working together as a people. But tell us firstly, before we go to that, what are the sort of key sectors and trends that you saw in the Investing in Africa Summit as the sort of emerging sectors to invest in? What is the emerging trends and things that we should be looking out for as a diaspora? Because I think, and we'll segue into this shortly, I think property and construction is obviously big, right? Because the diaspora, we always want to build back home. That's always our first port of call. But there's other sectors as well that are thriving, that are economically viable, that actually need some kind of diaspora input, or there's really great opportunities in terms of investing and building your net worth and your wealth in those sectors. So tell us what are those key sectors, what was under discussions? I'm really trying to find out what happened at the summit without actually being there.
No, absolutely. I think, one of the things that we do a lot as Africans, we complain about what we don't have. We complain about right? And those issues actually create opportunities. Yes, those issues are things that are worth complaining about, but those issues need solutions. And oftentimes those solutions are profitable, right? Those solutions make somebody rich. Those solutions make sustain. And what you see are, at this conference, all of the investors and people who were there, who were deal making, they were looking to solve solutions in Africa and on the continent. I saw there were people who were there talking about transportation, for instance. Transportation is a challenge on the continent. I know for me, living in a country like Liberia, I see it all the time. You have people who stand in the streets for hours because they can't find transportation. Those are issues that if someone finds a solution for, it can be very profitable for them. There were a lot of people at this conference talking about fintech. So fintech is financial technology, supporting the inefficiencies of the financial sector in Africa. Oftentimes you go to the banks, you're unable to get your money. You go to the ATM machines, there are no cash in the ATM machines. People need to be able to do business and do financial transactions quickly and contactless and effectively, right? So there was a lot of money being poured into financial technology. How do you support informal and formal financial sectors on the African continent through technology, right? So, you have a lot of countries in Africa where their banks are still doing things very manually. Their governments are operating and doing transactions in a very archaic way. So technology creates transparency. It creates efficiency, right? And I think what we saw with COVID in the world, COVID showed us that technology is going to be the future. It already is. It is now, but technology is going to be a greater impact in the future, especially for a continent like Africa is going to leapfrog. Africa has to find a way to start implementing technology. We complain a lot about corruption in Africa. Technology is a way to be able to create transparency. African government, this minister or this governor stole money, but we don't have any way to prove it. We talk about it on the radios for days, for weeks, and then it just disappears. But with technology in the financial sector and as a tool of governance, you're able to track it. You're able to see, okay, this is where this transaction went. These are where these payments went. This is how things happen. So those are ways to be able to solve some of those issues on the continent. So we saw a lot of money being poured into fintech. There were a lot of people looking to support the agricultural space. We complain that Africa is a continent where people are starving, but Africa has an enormous everything is organic in Africa. So why are we not growing our own food? So there are people there who are making strides in agriculture and trying to promote impact investment in agriculture. There were funds, there were agricultural companies there, and there were also funds, financiers who are looking to fund agricultural investments and developments on the continent as well. There were people in infrastructure development there. They were looking support the improvement and development of different type of infrastructure across the continent. So those are some of the things that stood out for me, as far as being on the continent. So it gives you a perspective that is not just one particular way to have a mindset about how to make money or what to invest in Africa. There are various sectors because there are a lot of challenges on the continent. That also creates a lot of opportunities for people who are looking to go back home, to be able to achieve something for their countries.
No, that's amazing, Bleejay. I think I've picked out some keywords that I'm smiling because you're talking STEM, you're talking fintech, you're talking agriculture, infra, and I'm going to get back to some of those. But before I just wanted to ask you, so Africa, very big continent, diverse economies, diverse demography. You've got the North, which is, they see it's basically Arab world. Some of them even identify more with being Arab than African. Then you've got the Horn of Africa, which has got its own kind of ecosystem, its own weather, it's desert land. You've got the South. It all operates really distinctively. So can you just share your perspective on how all of those different bits of Africa were brought together in this summit? Because I think that would be really interesting for us to hear about. What was your view on how you could see? And I think this goes back to your thing about collaborating and connecting. I think some of the reasons why sometimes we don't collaborate and connect so well is because we're so big. There's so many different cultures in Africa, and there's so many different Africas in Africa. So tell us a bit about what you saw in terms of bringing together all the different parts of Africa under that one roof to talk about investing and moving the continent forward.
Well, it was exciting to see how and you know, it's something that was exciting, yet it was something that was disappointing to me. You see that a European delegation can organize a conference and bring a bunch of African heads of states and African businesses together, and then bring European investors and people who want to invest in these countries and bring them under one roof. And then you look on a continent and you say, okay, why can't something like this happen on a continent, right? So amazed to see and hear about the amazing things that people were doing in other countries. I'm hearing people from Kenya who are investing in people from Rwanda investing in electric vehicles. People. And you know, it was so amazing to see that all of this is happening on this great continent that a lot of times when you're in your own little part of the world, you don't even hear about. So it was exciting to me to see that, and I came to a realization that there are opportunities, but there's also capital on the continent, right? But we have these barriers that are drawn on a continent where it's difficult. Like you said, the continent is very vast, the continent is very big, but at the same time, we don't have access to one another. Sometimes it's easier to access Europe and America than it is to access your neighboring country, right? If I get on a plane and fly to Nigeria, I'm paying probably $400 to $500. Why is that the case? If I want to fly to Cape Verde, I have to go all the way to North Africa before I come back to West Africa. So the challenges of accessibility of being able to cross the borders are very, very difficult in order for us to do, you know. So those are some of the challenges that exist where we don't know what's happening on the rest of the continent. We can't access capital on the rest of the continent. We can't travel easily to other parts of the continent to be able to get the help that we need. We have to consistently look outside of the continent in order to find ways to be able to collaborate. But, you know, with that being said, you know, it was exciting to see what was happening in other countries. And it broadened my perspective on, yes, if I'm looking for investment, if I'm looking to collaborate and build my network, I don't always have to do it in the West. You know, I can do it right on the continent. So I built my network with tremendous entrepreneurs, investors who are doing amazing things on a continent. And I connected with some of those people, and we vowed and said, okay, how do we collaborate? How do we support one another? We don't have to wait until this African investment conference happens every year before we meet again, or before we find ways to collaborate. But what are we taking away for ourselves, right? And one of the things that I also saw a lot of African countries that were represented, but they were within their own little bubble, right? So if Cape Verde is there for Cape Verde, but Cape Verde is not interacting with the other African countries that are there promoting themselves. And I made it an emphasis for me to go around and meet people and representatives from other African countries, because I feel like there are means and ways of collaborating with one another that can be effective, and not just only collaborating with these European investors, you know, that are present, but there are means and ways for us to be successful with one another on the continent. So it was a lot of takeaways. There was a lot of interesting things that I took away from the conference. I left very excited about the opportunities that are on the continent, and left very excited about the possibilities of what could happen.
Yeah. And so just quickly on the barriers, what do you think and how do you think we can start to break those barriers and sort of penetrate those stigmas and those kind of structures that we've built up, whether it's mentally, just those kind of borders that we've put up between ourselves as African countries? How can we start to slowly chip them away so that it's easier to do cross-border transactions, so that Sierra Leonean can go and invest in Nigeria, a Nigerian can go and all the way. I mean, Nigerians invest anywhere anyway, but I can go to Zimbabwe, I can go to Kenya, and we can just do those kind of cross-border investments between ourselves without having to go out to come back in. What do we do, and what kind of tips can you give us, or suggestions can you give us as Africans in the diaspora to start looking at those issues?
I mean, I think one of the lowest hanging fruits, you know, sometimes, you know, it's different. In America, for instance, you can get in your car, you can another state without knowing someone, right? You can go there, you can go online, look for tourist attractions and things, and it's very easy, right? But in Africa, it's not as easy. You know, you know, someone who's never been to Sierra Leone before, it's going to be very difficult for them to just say, I'm going to Sierra Leone randomly, and you know, where do you even, right? But I think a low-hanging fruit is to leverage your network, right? We all diverse countries. We have friends from Ghana, we have friends from Nigeria, we have friends from Kenya, we have from South Africa. But you know, we need to start opening up the conversations that we're having with our friends of saying, okay, I want to visit your country. Is there an opportunity for me to go and visit? You know, I do this a lot. People who are non-Liberians who have visited Liberia, because of me, it's been based off of my friendship. It's been based off of what they see me sharing. It's been based off of me being eager to be able to share what's happening in my country and to be able to share my country with other people as well. So I think the immediate low-hanging fruit is just go and experience, right? Step outside of your comfort zone. You know, sometimes if you're going home for the holidays, you know, maybe switch it up and, you know, reach out to a friend. Hey, are you going home to Liberia this holiday? Or when's the next time that you're going to be in your country? I would love to tag along and just see what your country is about for a few days. And that's how you start to experience other, you know, what's happening in other countries. And from there, you can start building a comfort level with what are opportunities in this country that I may be willing to invest in outside of my own country. You know, for me, I used to always tell people I used to be offended when I first moved to America from Liberia that people used to see Africa as one big country, right? You know, when people used to say, oh, you know, did you see lions and tigers when you were growing up? And I said, no, I've never seen a lion in my life, you know. But now, you know, I've erased that mentality. I see Africa as one country, or I believe that we are one, and I want to be comfortable enough to say, okay, if I'm successful in Liberia or things are going slow for me in Liberia, I want to be comfortable enough to say, yes, I can go to Sierra Leone and do business. Yes, I can go to Ivory Coast and do business. And I think that mindset of unity, that mindset of seeing each other, although we have different cultures and societies are different, but that mindset of unity is what's going to break down those barriers. That's what's going to open up doors and other opportunities for us to be able to expand. Because from what I've seen at the conference, I saw European investors who are investing in multiple African countries. If they, who are based in Europe, with limited knowledge of the cultures and these areas, can go and invest in Kenya, invest in Rwanda, and invest in Tanzania. If they're able to do it and expand, you know, what more us? You know, we may not have the type of resources that they have to do in a larger scale, but like I said, we can find smaller ways to start opening up our minds to doing that on smaller levels by accessing our networks of friends and having more collaborative conversations with them and to start removing those barriers those ways.
Thanks, Bleejay. No, that's good. That's good. And I just wanted to just touch on, because obviously we talked about Europeans going there and being able to just invest, and they're moving fluidly between borders. And I think one of the key things is language. So obviously we know most of Africa was carved up centuries ago. Is language one of the barriers, you think? And is it one of the things causing this problem?
Absolutely. Language is absolutely a barrier. For instance, like you said, investors from France, they prioritize the Francophone countries, right? They can easily go into Senegal, and go into Cote d'Ivoire, and go into other French-speaking countries, and it's easier to be able to expand because of that. So that's definitely an issue. But you know, in most places there's a global language, which English has become that global language. So you can still go into these countries, although language is a barrier, but it's not a complete obstacle, right? So you can still go into these countries where there are English speaking people, that you're able to still be able to communicate. You know, you have the Chinese come to Africa, they don't know how to communicate with you, but they still come and make money. They still come and invest. Even if they have to tell you what to do, they know what they're talking about. But that's where I said we have to be able to lean on the local resources that we have. I don't speak French, but I have friends who speak French, right? If I want to go and learn about a country or go to a French-speaking country, I'm leaning on the collaboration and partnership with my friend to be able to educate me on what's happening, to be able to help me in communicating, to be able to help me some of those barriers. So I think where there's a will, there's a way. Nothing is a closed door. I think there's always a means and ways to be able to open a door. It takes a little bit more effort. But I think we have a tall task in front of us. If we want to be able to develop our continent the way we want to, we have to be willing to be able to get uncomfortable oftentimes, and immediately those sacrifices do pay off.
Thank you, Bleejay. And you know what? I like to believe money is a language.
Of course.
And everyone can speak money.
So
I'm not surprised. It's a global language. It's got its own vocabulary. It's got its own slang. So I think that's one of the reasons why people from other places, other economies, other cultures, other jurisdictions can just go there, because they're thinking about money, the financial aspects, right? But we as Africans, when we go to invest in Africa, I think we have to think about things a little bit differently. So I think we do have to think about money, but we also have to think about social value. We have to think about the next generation. We have to think about the longer term impact of how we want to shape our continent for the future, because I think that is how, and I think that's one of the things that maybe can become a barrier as well for an African person, especially like me. I wouldn't want to just go and be a mercenary. I'd want to do it in a way that it benefits the collective, right? Absolutely. So I would like to actually, if I'm going to go to invest in Africa, whether it's from Sierra Leone, where I'm from, or any other African economy, I'd like to do it in a way that builds people up, that builds economies up, that leaves a legacy and something that my children's children can look back on and can benefit from. So with that, I'm going to segue very quickly into the built environment, which is your bag, it's your speed, and it's your particular sector. So just tell us a little bit about you and what you've been doing in terms of reconstructing Africa, in terms of buildings and real estate developments.
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from a real estate development world. From a career standpoint, I was working in Washington, D.C. in the commercial real estate space, and was working with a lot of developers, investors, and property owners in different ways, and was learning about how they were making deals happen, how they started companies, how they became successful in a means, in a ways that they got successful. And one thing I realized and learned, that it wasn't rocket science. It was planning, it was foresight, and it was execution. People who have thriving real estate businesses, not because they started it today and it became tomorrow. Some of them took over companies from their parents. Their parents started that they left them with, and transferred knowledge, and they benefited from it. And when you go to Africa, you see that the property space is not owned by Africans, right? The space is owned by foreigners. So you go in your own country and you don't have representation in one of the greatest investments in the world, which is property. So foreigners that own all the best apartment buildings and hotels and all the assets, when it comes to the construction space, the quality or big construction projects are being done by foreigners as well. So you start to ask yourself, what is it that, other than us living in the country, what is it that we are really giving to our country? How are we really benefiting from our country? So for me, coming from the educational background that I come from, that was a dynamic for me that it posed itself as a challenge for me. It kept me up at night, and I wanted to find a way to contribute to that in some way. and you know, luckily for me, got together with some partners and was connected with partners who had the same vision. And, you know, we got into the construction space in Liberia, being able to showcase ourselves as a company that could do quality work, as a company that could provide transparency, that could provide market knowledge, a company that wasn't just about taking your money and doing a crappy job, or telling you we're going to build something for you and disappear. You'll never hear from us again. You know, why would our own house, we say we're going to build your house, you know, or even if we do the job, we do it in a substandard way. You know, I wanted people to see that, you know, we're a Liberian-owned company that you can trust. We were a company that wanted to do business and do it the right way with transparency, so that people can have a peace of mind, so that people can say, yes, this is a representation of us that's doing something and doing it well, and it's something that we can be proud of. So you know, our company also, aside from, we do construction, engineering, architecture, and we do logistics as well. But aside from doing the actual work, we challenge ourselves to be able to transfer knowledge, because transfer of knowledge is important. If we're not transferring knowledge, then it stops when we're done, right? So we have an internship program as well, where we bring in young people from the universities to be able to give them practical knowledge, because unfortunately, in our part of the world, a lot of times students go to school, especially the educational system in a country like Liberia. For me, students go to school, but they have no practical knowledge. So you study engineering, but you don't know the first thing about engineering when the time comes to be able to do the actual work. So, you know, we're transferring knowledge and preparing young people in that means, in that way. So for us, it's how do you create social impact? Because earlier, we're thinking about the generation. You know, this is not, I'm not from another country where I can say, okay, I can come here and take money and do what I want to do and run away. This is home for me. You know, my children to know that this is where they're from, to be proud of where they're from, and have a type of legacy as well on the continent. So, you know, property and real estate investment, is something that it's generational wealth. If you're in property investment, it's something that you can hand that asset down to your children. You know, and being able to not just do the work for people, but being able to share knowledge and educate people is important as well. So, you know, for me, oftentimes, if people don't know anything about the market that I'm working in, I take a lot of time in consulting people and educating them in the market. Where are you building? What community are you building in? What's the demographic of that neighborhood? Are you sure you want to build apartment building here? Are you sure you want to build a hotel here? You know, have you done the research to show that it's going to be successful in this particular area? What's your goal? You know, the right questions. I'm not just saying, okay, yes, I'm going to take your project, but making sure that this investment is going to be something that lasts, and that it's going to be sustainable for the country and even for you. And we, as you know, as Africans, sometimes to our fault, we blame our countries when we don't do research, right? You know, our countries, yes, some of the countries have faults of their own, but, you know, you have people who say, oh, no, I'm never going to invest in property in Liberia again because I can't make money, right? And then when you drill them down on it and say, okay, where did you build it? What did you build? You realize that they put the wrong development and investment in the wrong community, right? They did due diligence. They didn't do enough research to know that what they were doing was not going to be successful where they did it, you know. And within real estate and property, it's all about location, right? The rule in real estate investing is location, location, location. They tell you this all the time. So the right location is going to determine how successful what you're doing is going to be. So I think our people just need to be knowledgeable in this space a lot more. So, you know, like I said, I try to, and our company tries to take a lot of time in just educating people and giving them a broader understanding if they don't have a broader understanding of what they're getting into before they go ahead and execute something.
Thanks, Bleejay. I think location is key. Obviously, when we are in Europe or we're in the diaspora and we're investing in property, that mantra is at the forefront of our heads. Location. There's even a television show in the UK that used to be called Location, 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 one of my favorite programs. And we know that, but I think when we want to go back to Africa or back home to build, to start building, we think really differently. We don't think about it like that. We just think it's home. We look at it as just one big piece and one big plot of land, and we're there and we just want to get the buildings done. And I don't think many of us, even in my opinion anyway, see property as an investment in Africa. Most of us just build as we want to go back home and we want to retire back home. And that's where we start building. And that's that's what sort of prompts us to build. And that's where many of us really get the impetus from. Viewers, I just want to say very quickly, please call in, share your comments on Facebook Live, or call the studio. The number is 07951213881. I repeat, 07951213881. If you have any questions or comments for Bleejay, and he will take those comments as they come in. So I think I've got a viewer saying poor feasibility studies, that's all there. And on the back of that, you've touched on quite a few things. I just want to go back to, you said something about governance, you've said something about market analysis. So I want to ask you, is the regulation there to support construction in Africa? Because you hear horror stories all the time. Like you said, you hear people say, I'll never go back and build here. Things happen to people. Land ownership in Africa is not as straightforward and succinct. UK, we've got a land registry, for instance. So when you purchase your property, it's registered. There's an official copy that says it's yours. Nobody can dispute that it's yours. There's a whole load of processes and rules and laws that govern property transactions and property buildings. So in Africa, well, definitely where I'm from in Sierra Leone, there's still a void in that, and it doesn't exist so much. So a quick word on the regulations, the regulatory and legal landscape. Is it there to support building, especially commercial building? And what do you think can be done to improve that, so that people like me, younger people, even our parents' generations, can feel more secure and more confident in making those investments in different African countries?
Yeah, I mean, those challenges are there. So if we look at Sierra Leone and we look at Liberia, for instance, for me it's context, right? I know that those regulations and the systems haven't always been there to be able to fully support. That's a fact, and obvious challenge. It's getting better, and the upside is, if you say, okay, where was this 5 years ago in Sierra Leone compared to where they are now? It's right. It's a stride in the right direction. Where was this, in Liberia? What was the system like 10 years ago compared to where it is now? It's a stride in the right direction. It's not perfected yet, but it's a stride in the right direction. I think also taking accountability as citizens is very important as well. You have a lot of people who want to skip steps and not do things the right way, right? So if not to your fault 100%, if the process is you buy land, you have to deed your property, you have to probate it, and the law says you have to probate it. And if you don't probate your property, and let's say, for instance, someone goes and sells that land to someone, right? And then the new person goes and probates the property, it was your fault because you never probated the property. That's a process that you have to go to, and you didn't take that process in order to protect yourself, right? So there are steps that a lot of us don't take, even in construction. There are a lot of people who they go online and they see a house and they say, oh, so and so, I want you to build my house like this. Well, construction is infrastructure, it's engineering, right? So if you take someone who is informal and is just a tradesman, and you say, hey, go ahead and build my house like this without putting proper plans together, and the house structurally starts to fall apart, or the house has some type of issues in a rainy season with flooding and these different things, you didn't go through the proper channels of what it takes to build a house, right? Whether because you were cost conscious, you wanted to save money, you felt like you didn't want to spend money on certain things that you didn't need to spend money on, and then on the back end, skipping some of those steps end up costing you. It costs you more, on the back end. So, I know a lot of people who try to devalue what we even do with our company, right? So when we tell people we do not build without doing a plan, right? We have to do an actual architectural plan. We have to do structural plan. We have to put all of these things together to know that what we're building, it's valued, right? And those things are things that cost. They cost money because we care about reputation. We care that you're spending money, and we want to make sure if we do something, we're doing it the right way. So there are a lot of people who say, oh, no, we don't have to do this. We don't want to spend money on doing this, but they want the same outcome. You want a house that looks like your house in the UK, but you don't want to pay what it takes to build the house like they do it in the UK the right way. It's Africa, right? So we have a mentality in our minds that because it's Africa, because it's Sierra Leone, things should be a certain way. Things should automatically be cheaper. Things should be devalued. So it's a mindset thing as well too. We devalue ourselves. You have good Sierra Leonean engineers. You have good Sierra Leonean builders, but those people struggle to get business because Sierra Leoneans abroad think, oh, you're too expensive. I'm not going to pay what you're charging because you're charging me too much. But that's the cost of that person doing good quality work for you. You're automatically devaluing that person's skill set, what that person has spent time investing in order to give you a good product. And then when somebody else goes and ruins it, then you come back to that person. Oh, I need you to fix this. So that's the conundrum, that we're in. Oftentimes we devalue ourselves. We devalue our countries because we automatically just think, okay, this is how things are done. And we want our countries to develop, but we don't develop our own mindset and how we think about our countries.
Very, very interesting, Bleejay. Any comments from the chat or from the WhatsApp? Somebody said, and I think we just picking up on what you said right there, Bleejay, about building, time, cost, money. It takes a lot out of you. I've seen people building houses in Africa for 10 years. It's ongoing. Building a building, 5 years. It's ongoing. How can we speed up these construction developments in Africa? I'm talking about quick, cheap, at pace, large volumes, affordable to the masses. How can we overcome that hurdle of taking 5-10 years to build your land with still the same rigor and the same high quality standards and systems that you're talking about in place?
Well, two ways. And one way the system really doesn't support that. In order to be able to build efficiently and build quickly, you need support in the financial sector. You need financing, right? So one of the big hindrances of development in the part of the world where we're from is there are no banks that are really able to be commercial. There are no real commercial banks to be able to mortgages or construction loans the way people would essentially need them in order to be able to complete their projects efficiently in the right way. So, it's a difficult thing. So people are building back home through their savings. So, you may have a good job, you may work hard, but not everyone has $100,000 laying around to finish a project within 6 months or 8 months. So they need some type of financing in order to be able to make plans. But in Africa, the banking systems are charging you 18% to 20%, and they're only giving you maybe 12 to 24 months to repay that. It makes no sense. So for a lot of people, that's a hindrance. You're going to say, okay, every time I work, I'll try to put something small towards it. And then next thing you know, 5-10 years go by before you actually finish the project if you don't have. But the solution in all of that is looking at technology, right? Technology in every sector is transforming how business is being done. So what are technological advancements in the construction and property space? What we're doing in building material space that are keeping the same quality or lowering cost, right? You know, the construction, for instance.
Whoa, wow.
Modular construction isn't always relatively cheaper, but from a time standpoint, modular construction, a house that may take you, 8 months to a year to build can be built, within a month,
Wow.
in 2 months or less, right? There are different type of homes. There are smaller homes. They call it pod homes. So
wow.
Technology where maybe people who are low income, you're able to develop and build smaller homes for them with the same amenities and the same quality and care, right? Sometimes I look around, in places in Africa, and you see the type of low income homes that governments or companies are building for employees, and there's love, there's no care. It's not something that's you would even be comfortable living in yourself. How would you deliver it to someone? So there are means of construction. There are alternative building materials that people can use.
Wow.
So in Africa, unfortunately, I'm not going to say all Africa. I think in Liberia are very similar. We're stuck in doing things the same way.
Wow.
Right? Construction technology has advanced tremendously, but we're still building the same way, the same means. We're still doing the same means of construction, and we expect things to be done differently, right? We expect advancement, but I think it takes developers and contractors like people like myself to be able to educate the market on some of those opportunities, to introduce some of those opportunities to our people. And I think when some of those things are done, it takes our governments also reaching, what are means and ways that we can speed up construction? What are means and ways that we can provide housing, affordable housing to people? And being able to incentivize companies to be able to go out and do things a different way. So there's a lot of technology out there where building and construction is being done in new and innovative ways all across the world. And I think to be able to start looking at adapting into some of those avenues.
That's fantastic and amazing. Any comments in the chat, DJ Little? Any comments on WhatsApp? Hello. We're talking about knowledge.
Hi, apologies. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, apologies. Yeah, I'm just monitoring the chat group. The chat mail is mainly coming from me because I'm fascinated, to be very honest, and
yeah, we're very fascinated
about this topic, and because I have to say I'm one of the Sierra Leoneans based in the UK who have always said I don't have desire to rebuild a home in Sierra Leone or to build a business in Sierra Leone or to invest, so to speak, on a long-term project. I've got short-term investments in Sierra Leone. I think one of the reasons for that, for me personally, is because of experiences that are more common for my parents, so to speak, because having watched, which Bleejay touched on it, having watched and seen the amount of money or investment which my parents, the mother and the father, have undergone just to put what we call a standard abule together, as in 2.4 bedroom flat. And you're thinking the period of time is taking beyond 10 years just to build a standard 2-story block. You're thinking you're not motivated after you've been here for as a young boy, and then you've watched that. And hence the reason why I feel personally my experience would not be to have a long-term investment in Sierra Leone. But I'm fascinated to see what sort of advice or encouragement can Bleejay give to people like myself in that situation where their parents may have struggled to invest and rebuild, whether it's a home, whether it's a business or not, and then that is sort of like turn them off. What kind of advice can you say? Well, hang on, Africa is changing. Don't draw from your parental experience, but don't make your final decision based on those experiences. What sort of advice would you give to somebody like myself or people in the same capacity?
I think preparation is key and it's important, right? I see a lot of people who, and I think sometimes our parents overwhelm themselves, or our parents have overwhelmed themselves. And, because they have this desire, sometimes it's cultural pressure, to say, okay, I have to be able to own a home. I have to be able to own a home of this size and these different things. And I think, knowing your limits is very important. I have a lot of people, for example, some people come and say, oh, I want to build a 6-bedroom house. I want it to have this. I want it to have that. I want it to be 3 stories and all these different things. And, and these are older people. And I'm asking them, okay, so what's the plan? When you're no longer living in the house or your kid's going to take over the house. We have an issue, for example, in Liberia. There are a lot of abandoned homes in Liberia, these massive structures people have built and their children don't want it. Your children.
Sorry to interject. That was going to be my follow-on question, and I'm glad you're going there because I was going to give a real-life scenario where there was a 70-year-old lady. I believe she's within that age. The age is not right. But she's a Nigerian lady who had resided, I believe, in the UK based on our fornications, and they had about 4 children, very successful. Gave birth to a couple of them in Nigeria, a couple of them in the UK. And they're all successful within their rights and living their own independent life in the UK. But during the period when they had the kids, the process of rebuilding with the husband, they had built a massive structural house which they lived in for, I think it was over 12-bedroom house, Bleejay and Zainab. So unfortunately, the husband had passed away. And the husband had passed away for about 2 to 3 years coming, and the woman had been suffering loneliness and all of that stuff. And she's made several calls to her children to come and visit. And I think during the period where their father passed away, the kids had only visited once after the funeral service. They've never been since. So she's been by herself for over 2 years. So the woman was spurred on to make a video and advising other Nigerian parents, mothers, saying, look, don't be built in all these houses, these rooms. Our children don't. And it was a very moving video, which was it went viral. So I'm glad you're there. So just talk about it. I just wanted to share that story. So I'm so happy that you went there. Yeah.
I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, right? So I think so now for us, we have to start thinking differently than maybe our parents thought, right? So I urge a lot of my clients, right? So when they say this is what I want to build, and I tell them the estimated budget for what it's going to cost, I advise them, why don't you build something smaller? So if you want to, let's say, even if your children don't even want it, you can convert it to something that can be rented. It can create some type of revenue stream for you, but it's easily able to be maintained. Maintenance is a big thing when it comes to property. A lot of people I can build a house and you think the house is going to take care of itself. No, it takes money to maintain and keep up a house. So if you build a massive mansion and you don't have the financial means to maintain that mansion, it's going to be a liability for you. It's no longer going to be an asset, right? Because your children are going to look at how expensive it is to be able to maintain it, and they're going to want nothing to do with it. So we have to start thinking, okay, and am I in the financial position to, 1, build this thing, to 2, maintain it once, let's say, I'm no longer occupying it, or once I'm no longer using it, right? Because we're not going to live forever. So is this going to be an asset, or is it going to be a liability to my children? It's going to be an asset or liability to my family members, when it's done. For the same thing, I know of someone in Liberia so a massive mansion that was built, and the person unfortunately passed away, but the family is scrambling to be able to sell the property or to lease it because none of them can maintain it. It was such a massive property. So I think as younger Africans, as Africans who are more connected now, more aware now, those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. You can still build a very beautiful home, smaller, that architecturally looks good. There are ways to design homes, smaller homes, to make them feel bigger, right? Africa, we build with all of these walls. We put a wall here, we put a wall here, put a wall here. But there's plans for open floor plan concept. You've seen homes where the living room, you can see into the dining room, you can see, into the kitchen, and they're aesthetically, they look very good. And even though they're smaller size home, they feel generally larger because of how they were naturally designed. And I tell people as well, as Africans, think in a cultural context. From a design perspective, I like to think culturally. As Africans, what do we like to do? We like to commune with each other. We like to be. We don't spend a lot of time in the house. We spend a lot of time in the yard. We'll sit down in the yard, play games and eat. So build a smaller home and invest in the landscaping of the right. So build a patio, build a fire pit, build an area where the family can sit outside. Build a small little swimming pool, or build something that makes the yard inviting. And then spend less money on the construction of the home, and something like that is easily able to be maintained. So those are the things we have to start looking at. Construction is not just putting up a house to say I have a house in Africa. Long gone are those days, because you're gonna suffer tremendously if you take that approach. You're gonna spend all of your money, and then you're gonna become frustrated. So if you have a little bit of money and you say, okay, I only have $50,000, what can $50,000 get me? You talk to someone who's knowledgeable. This is why working with the right people is important as well too, right? So for my firm, as architects, we can say, okay, realistically, this is what $50,000 will get you. You can either wait until you save more money to get what you want, or you can say, okay, I'll take your advice and I'll do what my budget is able to allow me to be able to do. But how can you do it in a creative way that's going to look aesthetically nice and it's going to be comfortable, at the end of the day? So these are things that we have to be able to think about. It's a process. It's not just an erratic decision we make. If you decide and say, okay, this year I want to build a house, but you're not prepared to build it this year, it's okay to wait. Wait until you get the proper information. Wait until you're in a position to make the right decision that's going to benefit you and your family long term.
Thank you. Zainab, before I hand over to you, Z, my final question to Bleejay on this segment is, you mentioned the word $50,000. Realistically, within the Mano River Union countries, which is Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, what can $50,000 build you in Sierra Leone, Liberia, or Guinea, either of those countries? Because the economies will be very similar, isn't it, Zainab?
Yeah, I think so.
So would that be like a 2-bedroom flat, a 1-bedroom flat with an open yard, highlighting all the compounds, the facilities that the yard would have? What would that, if I was to come to you now, Bleejay, I said, I've just got 4 numbers plus the bonus number on the national lottery. I'd like you to, I've got $50,000 cash in my hand, not £50,000, $50,000 cash, and I need you to design me a habitable property for the next, that I can live in for the next 2 decades. What would you be able to get me?
So one of the main things about building in Africa is every other country, let's say the UK, America, data and information drives your investment decisions, right? So for instance, you can go online and search a particular state or city in America and say, what's the average cost of building a residence, right? In Africa, we don't have that data. So, you have to create that data. There are some countries now that have that data. So for instance, going into Liberia for us, based off of projects that we've done, you have an average cost. So two bedrooms can come in any form. For example, Zainab can build a 2-bedroom that is 1,000 square feet. And you can build a 2-bedroom that's 700 square feet, for instance, right? It depends on what your vision is for that property. So no one property is created the same. right? You have to know what you want in that property, you know, what your vision is for how the property is going to be built and how that property is going to be constructed. You know, the number of rooms don't determine the size of the home, right? It's all about, you know, the constructability of your vision, what you want. So how we estimate it typically is based on the quality of the finishing of the home. So for example, what we typically do is we say, okay, an average middle income, a middle income home that we've done based off of research probably cost us about, let's say, $50 per square foot to be able to construct. That includes labor, materials. So in order to get an estimated idea of what it may cost you to build that thing, let's say your house is, so let's say you say, I want a 1,200 square foot flat. So what you would do is you take that $50, you multiply it by 1,200. So 50 times 1,200, that will give you an estimated cost of what it costs to build a 1,200 square foot flat. So now you have an estimated idea. And now you can say, okay, that budget is too high. Let me drop the size, the square footage of, and then, you know, let's say, okay, let's make it 1,000 square feet. And you say, okay, that's an estimated budget that may be right. So, you know, without finishing the actual architectural plan, you're not going to get what your actual development number is, but it gives you an engineer's estimate of potentially what is going to cost you for that quality of home. There are ways to be able to increase or decrease your cost in construction, right? So you can say, no, I may not go with that quality of material. Let me go with a cheaper quality of material. Those are ways to be able to bring down your cost. Let me drop the size of the home down. Let me be able to bring down your cost. So you can tell a contractor, here's my budget. There's two ways to price a home. You can go and say, I have a budget of $100,000. What can that get me? This is how I want the house to look. And the contractor can tell you what that can get you. Or you can say, I want to build a 2-bedroom house. I don't have a budget. Give me an idea. This is how I want it to look. Give me an idea of how much this is going to cost. And a contractor can give you an estimate of how that's going to cost. So it's up to you. You have to know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, you have to, again, come back to somebody who is educated enough in the industry who can give you the proper advice. And that's what we don't have a lot of. We don't have a lot of people going to the right people. We don't have a lot of the right people who are educating their clients. So, you know, for us, again, like a company like ours, we spend a lot of time educating our clients. So I'm not going to lie. I never lie to a client. If a client says, I want this and this and this and this, and I'm only able to spend this, I'll tell you, your budget is not realistic. You may find somebody in Africa who is going to tell you, oh yes, I'll build that for you. That budget is fine. And then they go and spoil your money, and then you become.
That's me, Bleejay.
Then you become upset, you know. So all of those things, again, it's due diligence. It's being informed about the market. It's being informed about the sector, and this is what, you know, more developed countries have. There's a lot of data and information. There are professionals who can educate you on all of these things so that you know how to properly plan for what it is that you're going to be investing in, because it's a significant investment. If you're doing any property construction, no matter if it's $20,000 or $100,000, it's your hard-earned money. You have to make sure you do your due diligence so that it's a decision that you're happy with at the end of the day.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Before I hand over, there are two comments, Z, on Facebook. The first comment, it's a response to the question which I asked Bleejay. It says, it's come from KD. Thank you very much, KD. It says, she said, 3-bedroom house will get you $50,000 will get you a 3-bedroom bungalow with ensuite or 2 bedrooms and a quest bathroom. She seems to know what she's talking about. I asked her, I said, you sure? She said, yup. And Stephen Davis said, the example given the way people look into construction in Liberia is a gradual process that is underway for promoting quality works in the construction industry. So those are the comments that's coming so far and on the program.
Amazing. That's fantastic. I think, Bleejay, I really love the last couple of comments and the last bits that you touched on there. It's all about cost. And I'm one of those people. I have more ideas than money, champagne taste and lemonade money. So when I met Bleejay on Sunday, I said, I want a 15-bedroom mansion, a swimming pool at the front, swimming pool at the back, jacuzzi, sauna, bang in the middle of Freetown. And I have a really small budget. And I wanted to find out how I can do that, because the things I want in life are usually very fancy and very, very big. But if I wanted something as ridiculous as that, thankfully, I really, really don't. There's more costs than just money, right? That entails a lot of environmental cost as well. So Bleejay, can you tell us a little bit about the environment in Africa and becoming more environmentally aware? Because as the rest of the world, like you said, is moving the needle, talking about global warming, talking about environmentally friendly models of construction. Can you tell us a bit about how that's catching on in Africa, and what are the trends you're seeing in terms of that? And how do you stop people like me who want too much that's going to just pollute the environment as you're delivering it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes back again to my other point of maintenance, right? There are other things that we're not aware of. You know, for example, in the there was a period of time where people were getting sick from they call it asbestos. It was a type of ceiling tiles that were being used that were poisoning people over periods of time. So they stopped building with that particular construction material, right? So we in Africa, a lot of places in Africa, we're not aware of the dangers of certain materials that we're using, and it's very, very important for us to be able to maintain our environment, but at the same time, being environmentally conscious it protects you as well too. So we want to make sure how we're constructing and how we're building, we're educated on the materials and on the tools and things that are being used and how we're building with those things. So it's very, very important to be able to ask questions, to be knowledgeable about what's being used, especially, for instance, if you have children. There are certain building materials that children should not be in the vicinity of. There are things that can get your children sick. So, for instance, if you build with a certain type of paints, there are certain type of paints that have been banned because of of the poisonous emissions that they give off that can make people sick. So it's important to be knowledgeable about some of those things, and then if you're building with some of those things that are hazardous, and then your child, God forbid, dies or gets sick, you can't blame it on witchcraft, right? Because you weren't educated enough or aware on some of those things. And the world is being pushed towards being more environmentally friendly, reducing dirt, reducing waste. We have a huge waste problem in our part of the world. We don't have a lot of waste management companies. We don't have landfills or anything like that. So being able to limit waste in construction is very important as well too. So again, that's where it comes back to our conversation on technology. What are technological building materials? What are ways that construction is being done that's going to be able to limit waste and do things efficiently as well. So these are things that companies also have to invest in educating themselves on. Again, you don't know what you don't know. And it's important that you're consistently advancing yourself, you're consistently educating yourself. And that's something that we challenge our company to do, not to just be comfortable with saying, okay, we're a construction company, we know how to build, so we're just going to remain the same. The world is changing. We have to shift with the world. We have to educate ourselves on certain things. And those are the things that make your company sustainable, right? Because customers appreciate those things. They see the amount of effort that you're putting into them. It sees the amount of effort that you're putting into growing your company and doing things differently than other people are doing it. So it's something that the continent needs to pay more attention to. I don't think we're fully there yet, but being environmentally cautious is something that it's a conversation that needs to be had in the building space on the continent for sure.
Fantastic, BJ. I think we've got you for another couple of minutes. I just wanted to ask you really quickly. I don't want to know what I don't know. Back to your comment earlier. And as far as in my head, I can still get my Chanel bathroom, right? When you build my house for me back home, it's gonna all be, you know, glitzy, glam, Chanel taps, Chanel handles. I'm really looking forward to working with you. Key things that you said today: knowledge, transfer, old, young. That's all about transfer as well. Inheriting property. That's all about transfer as well. And I really like that part of the way that you're thinking and the way that you're talking about transfer. So what can we, I think all of this that we've talked about, building, construction, skills, it's all about transfer actually. So are the skills there in Africa to actually develop all these construction projects? And if not, how can we transfer the knowledge? Because I think a lot of the skills and the knowledge and the education and the training is outside of Africa. How can we transfer that back into the continent? So for instance, I'm thinking about youth unemployment in Africa, which is really high amongst millennials and Generation Alpha. How can we start to invest in them, transfer that knowledge into them so that they can start to actually develop these skills and they can be that generation that can actually implement these ideas for us, not just inherit the houses, but build them as well?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I'm great made as well. I believe the raw skills are there. I'm always amazed when I'm in Africa and I look around and I always say there's nothing that our people can't do, right? The grit and the grind that we have in order to survive is greater than anything I've seen anywhere. The willpower to be entrepreneurs, to be innovative, to be self-taught is something that a lot of people cannot do. When you ask masoners and you ask contractors in Liberia how they learn to do what they learn how to do, they'll tell you by watching. You know, they said, well, I had a friend or my father or somebody did this and I just watched them. They didn't go to school for it. They don't have the technical knowledge for it, but they willed themselves into learning how they do it. So it's important that we are supporting that, the natural skill sets that they have, and we're supporting it and advancing it in a more professional way and developing it so that it's something that is productive for them and is productive for the society as a whole. And I think if you're doing business in Africa, it's very, very important that aside from doing business, that you're investing in the development of the mindset of the people that you work with, right? So if you have a business and you hire somebody to work as a cashier in the business, it's important that you're helping to develop that person's mindset, okay, of saying, okay, I'm going to teach you how to use Microsoft Excel. I'm going to teach you how to do some accounting. I'm going to teach you things that you don't know so that you understand finances better, so you understand how to track money better and to be more efficient. And that's a skill set that person is going to walk away with for a long time. Also, I think it's important that, especially in the industry that we're in, that the government creates incentives to incentivize companies to be able to support transfer of knowledge, right? I think every major company doing business and investment in any African country, if somebody's working in Sierra Leone, it's up to us to push the voices to our governments and say, okay, you need a mandate that these companies have some type of internship or training program, university students, to be able to put them in there, incentivize them, give them tax breaks and say, okay, if you bring in 20 interns or whatever the case may be, and you transfer that knowledge and you're transferring knowledge and educating them, you'll get some type of incentive, some type of tax breaks or something. So these are ways that you incentivize companies in order to be able to do things that way. Companies are willing in order to be able to create these type of platforms to educate. So, it's not just the government, right? We like to blame the government for everything too, but I see a lot of African business owners who start businesses and they don't want to invest in the people who they work with. You know, they want to take all of the profits and put it in their pockets, but take some of that money, set it aside for training, set it aside for your development, set it aside for improving the people that you work with. So we get out of that ourselves of, I'm doing business just to make money. No, it's yes, you're going to make money, but if you're creating an impact, you know, at least for me and our company, we know that if we're creating an impact, it means so much more to us than anything while we're making money. So if you care, I think I was having a conversation with you the other day, and I said, you have to care.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't care, none of these things happen, you know, right? Nothing. But if you truly care and you're thinking about the future of your country, you're thinking about the generations after you and the world that you want your children and their children to live in, you have to care, and you have to be willing to invest in some of these things that are going to benefit the lives of our people, that make sure that we're not always dependent. You know, and we've had this dependency mindset as Africans from colonialism, and it's still stuck in us today. And we're still depending on someone else to save us. And, you know, we have to really take accountability and be self-conscious of saying, okay, how am I contributing to the lack of development in my country?
Yeah.
You know, and if you're true with yourself, we all do it, right? Unknowingly, knowingly, you know, we're focused on ourselves, and that's a contribution to the lack of development in our country. So those are little ways that I think, knowledge can be transferred, and I think that we can contribute to keeping and developing skills in our country.
Fantastic, Bleejay. So audience, diaspora, you're all hearing, don't just build houses, don't just put up buildings, don't just build hotels, build each other, build the next generation, build your employees, build your families, build your friends. And we've heard that from somebody who is a self-certified expert builder of other people too. Thank you, Bleejay. I'm going to now ask the audience to call in, to dial in, to text in, if they have any questions, any comments. 07951 213 881. DJ Little, are you there?
Sorry, my mic is muted.
Your mic is muted. That's fine.
Yeah.
I was just saying.
I have to mute my mic so that we don't get a feedback in the studio.
I was just saying to Bleejay.
Okay. All right. Yes, I heard you making reference to the telephone numbers. Yes, I do agree. The lines are open. We'll keep the lines open for a few more minutes, so to speak. And but just to buttress what you've just said, I think, Bleejay, you've been amazing today, and
yeah, absolutely fantastic.
I've learned quite a lot, and I have to say, Z, you mentioned a couple of things which I wanted to just ask you for a little bit of education. What is the difference with the Alpha generation and the Millennium generation that you mentioned? Which comes first? Is it the Millennium and then the Alpha generation afterwards?
Millennials come first. So I'm a millennial.
Okay.
It's just the time that we were born.
Yeah.
So it resets. So it goes generation, silent generation, baby boomers, Gen X, Generation Y, which is millennials, Generation Z, and it started all over again at the start of the new decade. And that's Generation Alpha. So those are people that are probably like 15 right now, 16 right now, people born after 2000. Yeah. So people born in the 80s, like myself and Bleejay, we're millennials, the greatest generation ever, by the way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the self endorsement. So,
obviously, if I was born in that generation, DJ Little, it has to be the greatest generation ever.
I can't give away my age to Bleejay, so I'm not gonna say in which decade I was born. So I'll just say it's in the 70s. Let's just say that where life got transformed. So Bleejay, let's come back to the question, because I haven't received any question from social media yet, or no calls have come through the line yet. But again, just to say, from what Zainab was saying, if you're thinking of calling, the studio number is 07951 213 881. That's 07951 213 881. Only make your phone calls via WhatsApp calling only, please. And my other question to Bleejay would be, he still didn't, he was very diplomatic, by the way, Zainab. He didn't answer me what $50,000 can get me, but it's okay.
Have you got 50,000? Tell us if you won $50,000.
No, well, he refused to answer my question, so I'm not going to answer that question. Let's talk about reconstruction in Africa in terms of how will you compare the development of Sierra Leone in relation to its immediate West African neighbors? And I want to expand as far as Ghana and Nigeria, where Ghana, you would know, in the last decade, a lot of diasporans are Western diasporans or Afro-Caribbean diasporans are trying to aspire to want to live in Ghana. And sometimes when you have conversations with my work colleague, it hurts me that the fact that they feel more affiliated to Ghana than Sierra Leone, which I always try to encourage and educate them and say, well, if you go down through the indigenous line, you are more actually closer to being a Sierra Leonean than a Ghanaian. But is it because of the development of Ghana? Is that why Afro-Caribbeans are more aspiring or wanting to be associated with Ghana and wanting to invest in Ghana? And that question is for the both of you basically as well. So if I can get BJ to respond first and then Zainab can come in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to be very realistic, right, of Ghana's history. Context plays a very, very important role. Sierra Leone and Liberia went through years of civil war, right? That stagnated peace where nothing could happen, right? During those times, Ghana was developing, Ghana was moving. Ghana has not had to deal with some of the issues that Sierra Leone has had to deal with. And that gave time, 15 years ago, Ghana was not the Ghana it is today, right? There were Ghanaians who used to come to Liberia, come to Sierra Leone and live and work in these countries because it was better opportunities for them, and Ghana wasn't as developed as it was today. But time went on, things progressed, peace and stability and education and all of these things contribute to development and to growth. So Sierra Leone has to play catch up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic that in the next 10 to 15 years, Sierra Leone will be somewhere different. It won't be where it is today. I think we have to criticize our countries for where they are now, but at the same time, look in and be in context of where we are compared to where a Ghana is. And of course, who wouldn't want to be associated with growth and right? So Ghana has worked towards that, and they've earned it, But it's a job that Sierra Leoneans have to do for their country. It's a job that is not just left up to the government; it's left up to the people as well too. Development is a mindset thing. So if you don't change the way that you think, you're just as bad as the government. They're not doing their part. But what is the government made up of? It's people, it's individuals. These were citizens just like you and I who were on the internet or wherever complaining about their government, but they just got into government and they started the same thing. So it says charity starts at home. So when you start to love your country and you start to say positive things about your country, you start to contribute. Don't just talk, contribute. Find some type of way to contribute, be a part of the solution. And you're doing these things, you'll see things start to change. If you listen to stories about Ghanaians who are thriving in Ghana in the property space, these were people who, some of them moved back home from the diaspora. They went back home and they said, you know what, where Ghana is today, I think in the next 10 to 15 years, I'm going to benefit by investing in Ghana today. We hear a lot of those stories. Ghana wasn't where it was today, and they chose to do that investment. So, we need to change our mindset about our country. We need to remain optimistic. You don't have any other country but the one that, the one that God gave you. So you know, you have to be very, very optimistic and know that, you know, contextually, your country, where your country came from, the history that your country went through, is not the same history that Ghana went through or Nigeria went through. And we're in context, but you know, it's up to us to contribute to the growth and the development that we want to see.
That's right.
Thank you for that. Zainab, would you like to buttress on to what Bleejay said?
Yeah, I echo everything Bleejay said. I think as well, it's about the strength of the diaspora for me. So I think those countries have massive populations in comparison to smaller countries like Liberia, Guinea, Sierra Leone. They've got really strong diaspora. And I think, you know, research shows that where there's a strong diaspora, that starts to have a knock-on effect back home. And what I mean by that, it doesn't mean that the diaspora come in and take over and run things and go back with the mentality that they know it all because they've been educated here. No, it's about collaboration between people back home on the continent living on the ground and people back in the diaspora. And again, for me, it's about that transfer. So we're transferring knowledge, we're pooling resources, we're sharing ideas, and then we work together harmoniously to rebuild. And I think if we can start to do that and understand that we're one people and that we're one team, we might be separated by geographical borders, but we're actually one people. I think that can start to get us that cultural pride that we need. And then that can get us that mindset to start collaborating and rebuilding.
Fascinating. And obviously, this is really, really a great program once again. And just to comment, Edward Benjamin says, guys, thanks for educating us. And that's just a latest comment that's just come through. And I'm keen to, obviously, we're wrapping up now. I just want to say, what's coming up for you next, Z, next week's show?
Next week's show, we are going to have a conversation with Marvelicious Touch.
Okay.
A hairdresser, beauty specialist, and she's going to be talking about her experience and journey in the UK hair care industry. She's going to be giving us tips on hair care over the winter and autumn seasons. And she's going to be telling us about why she loves hair and how she got hair is the title of her conversation. So that's next week. Thank you very, very much, Diaspora Radio. It's been a pleasure, and see you next week.
Listen, it's been a massive pleasure to have you as well to host the program today. And also, I believe you want to extend your thanks to Bleejay as well, because I'll have you do it, then I can just endorse what you.
No, I just have to thank you, Bleejay. And that was fascinating. I learned a lot. Really interesting conversation. And I think you've got some really great ideas now. I just wish the Sierra Leonean government can reach out to you so that we can start working on these methods that you're talking about in terms of building for people quicker and faster and cheaper. And I just wish that there was a way that we could get you to reach out to people and start sharing some of your ideas and make this a reality for people living on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate it. I think, again, it starts with conversations like these, right? It starts collaborating, it starts with outreaching. I think, you know, we can plan events where we can do a Zoom call, invite people on to be educated about certain things, do presentations about what's happening on the continent, organizing conferences, organizing opportunities for people to be made aware. Because the biggest thing is access, right? People don't have access to information, and if you don't have access to particular information, you don't know, or you aren't aware of what's going on. So it's our responsibility as we educate ourselves to be able to transfer. Again, comes back to transfer knowledge, transfer that knowledge to people, and to do our part in that way.
Thank you, Mr. Innis. It's an absolute pleasure.
So, Bleejay, my question to you would be, before I say thank you, would you come back again? I know you'll be stateside, but would you come back to the Diaspora Voices show again, and this time from stateside, and actually just do a little bit more? Because I would love to see Zainab having you, and then maybe having some of your case studies that you've worked with, and so that we can have some form of group conversation. And because really and truthfully, there's been a lot of the beautiful thing about Diaspora Voices. What happens is that the program builds up post the program. If you see what I mean. So after tonight's program, as the days goes on, a lot of people will watch the program and the comments will come.
Yeah.
So, and we will feed back to you. So would you be kind enough to be a guest again on Diaspora Voices in future?
Who am I to say no? Who am I to say no to the two powerful Sierra Leoneans in the UK?
We appreciate you. We
appreciate you, Bleejay. Thank you so much for your time.
And thanks for giving us your time. And we know that you're trying to prepare to leave for tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Zainab, I'm still on the line, so we'll let Bleejay go. And
thank you very, very much.
Okay, so it's been a wonderful program today. Again, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to next Tuesday's program, and then we've got somebody else that's going to be coming at the end in the next 2 weeks as well that you're going to be having on the program. So I think Bleejay is amazing.
Honestly, he's amazing. He's full of wisdom.
He is,
and he knows his stuff, and he's so